There are thieves on the set of Love is Blind, and it's not the contestants. No, I cannot be the only one who was sick to her stomach after watching this wedding episode of Love is Blind Season 8, and we gotta talk about it. Fans are calling this the worst wedding episode of Love is Blind that we've ever seen. I am convinced that production is robbing the Love is Blind contestants right in front of our eyes, allegedly. This season just felt different. We know that Love is Blind contestants just go through the process of getting to know each other. They meet each other through the pods, and then they see if it's gonna work out in real life, and then they build up the moment to say yes or no at the altar. But for some reason, this episode literally made me sick. We're gonna break down all the couples, all of the very, very strange interactions that they had, not only with each other, but to camera, with their families, that is implying that there's something more going on behind the scenes that the audience is kind of left in the dark about, but we're gonna analyze right here and kind of shed some light on a potentially really gross situation behind the scenes. Are these contestants really ready for marriage when they're getting to their wedding day, or are they being pushed by production to go through with it because production needs that juicy moment? This is exactly what everyone's been waiting for to get to that moment. Because out of the 5 couples that went through this process, only 1 actually got married, but the other 4 made their fellow little fiance, if that's what we're still calling it, go all the way to that day, robbing their friends, their family, and their partners of an incredibly special moment of your wedding day, of picking out your dress, of getting your hair and makeup done with your mother and your sisters, and having your father get all teary-eyed because he's walking you down the aisle and getting emotional, of sending his little baby off, only to get to the altar and not truly know if your partner is going to say yes or no. In this season, it felt like every couple already knew that they were gonna say no. So in this video, let's break down what we saw this episode, all the nuances, very weird things that all the different couples were saying. We're gonna analyze each couple, and then at the end, let's really analyze if we think this show is moral or not. I know a lot of television, especially reality television, isn't exactly moral, but do we feel good watching this now, especially with this latest wedding episode and then the teaser for the reunion that comes out on Sunday? I honestly don't know if I can say I feel good about it. And I used to love this show. I love this show so much. We literally have the golden goblets, but now I honestly feel sick to my stomach. So let's break it down. So Sarah and Ben were interesting to start off on because Sarah seemed really into him at first, and she seemed pretty emotional putting on that dress, but you can also see that her family was not into it. They kept just putting it down. They're like, I hope you know what you're doing, like saying things that were just like not into Ben. And I thought this was such a shame because they didn't align on every single view, but who are you ever going to align on every single view on? And it's not like these kind of like nuances to the views are going to overshadow your day-to-day. There's a beautiful thing when you guys can think slightly differently, but come to a union and like embrace each other's differences. Yes, he went to church and she didn't, but he still said he believed in all the same things that she did. So I thought that was really weird. I also thought it was so bizarre how casual he was when she said no at the altar. And the things that we're hearing behind the scenes of like, I just was never getting enough from him. They're not sharing any of this stuff throughout the season, but you could kind of tell that they both knew it wasn't going to happen. So why go to the altar? It's so frustrating. Let's move on to Joey and Monica. Monica and Joey look like the cutest, quirkiest couple, the couple that you're like, wow, those two are so quirky. It's a good thing that they found each other because they're just really specific. And I understand that because I'm really quirky and so is my husband. So it's a good thing that we found each other too, right? So you would think, wow, this is the perfect pairing. They were really fun to watch. They seem really into each other. But what we didn't learn behind the scenes is there was really no intimacy. There was no I love yous. Essentially, it seemed like both of them knew that they weren't going to say yes, but yet we still had to follow them all the way down the altar. And it was so incredibly sad that we had to watch Monica go through this and even Joey go through with this, because you could tell all of his friends and family were so convinced that they were actually going to get married. So something Monica said, which I couldn't even imagine, was she said that she didn't know what he was going to say, and she didn't know if he was into her, and she just wanted someone to choose her. Yet you still have to go through the process of walking down the aisle. Could you imagine on your wedding day saying, I don't want to get my hopes up because I'll be sad if it doesn't happen? That is like the saddest thing I've ever heard. Joey was a little bit more convincing with his family though, because he said, I fell in love with her spirit. I just love everything about her. So you're kind of like, wow, that's a really deep thing to say, to fall in love with someone's spirit. I was convinced that he would surprise us and say yes, even though Monica said he's less emotional and he's more logical. But what I didn't like was I felt like Monica's jealous sisters who kept saying, I'm still questioning if you can read people. It's like, why would you say that on someone's wedding day? I guess you would say that if you already knew that your sister was going to say no. So I am so glad that Monica said no at the altar when she was asked first, because she said, I think I'm just gonna end up saying whatever he says, which is so terrible. Like, this is an actual engagement. I guess people aren't taking it that seriously anymore. But she said, I want to be chosen. I need to be chosen. I was hoping he would be my person for the rest of my life. And I actually really do believe that. Like, I think she was really into it. But I think they both knew that this wasn't going to work out, which is basically what they said at the altar. So why were they forced to go to the altar in the first place? Like, that is definitely a conversation they could have had behind the scenes. They are living together. I think these two people, it was just a lack of communication from two people trying not to screw things up, like walking on eggshells, that they didn't feel comfortable enough to actually have that chat. And again, they could have been forced by production to at least go to the altar and see how you feel. Joey literally said, I'll see how I feel in the moment. If it's a yes, it's a yes. And as someone who just recently got married, I cannot imagine getting to the point where you're at walking down the aisle and how sick you would feel in your stomach to not know if you were going to say yes or no, which makes me think that they both knew it was going to be a no. Let's move on. Hands down, this couple was the most heartbreaking. Love is Blind production is building up Devon and Virginia to be the fairy tale couple. Virginia literally looks like the most magical princess. If I didn't obsess over my dress, I'd be like, okay, that type of dress, like everyone wants to look exactly like Virginia on her wedding day. She was so emotional, and now we know why, because she was not going to say yes. And it was just so incredibly sad to see both her, both Devon, all of their families building this up. I think the most sad thing was seeing Devon's little niece, I believe, like seeing him play with her was obviously the cutest thing in the world. Every woman wants to see that footage of their man playing with the kid. It helps you, envision your future. But seeing the little baby girl say, what's going on? And her dad saying, she said no. Like, I could never as a child, I feel like that kid is going to have PTSD from seeing two people walk down the aisle and then just say no to each other. That was so wild. It was so powerful in the beginning to see that they both had the same vision for their life. Oh, a baby on the hip, pregnant, going to your games. You could tell that the families really supported them both. One of Virginia's friends said, you have so many years ahead. And she said, yeah, we do. And then someone told Devon, I believe, I'm hoping that you don't change your mind because you seem like the perfect pair. So they had all the support in the world. Virginia looked amazing. Her mom kept pointing out, look at your ladybugs, entire support from the family. And yet she said no. And my heart crushed for Devon in the moment. And now we're seeing a trailer for the teaser of the reunion. But honestly, my heart is crushing more for these families. Like, I feel like you're robbing yourselves of that experience on your wedding day, but you're also robbing your families. And I truly don't know if this show is like moral and ethical anymore. And I mean, it's the same format they've always done, but it seems like more and more these couples are not ready for marriage and no one is leaving early, which only leads me to believe, in my opinion, that production is robbing them of their wedding day experience by heavily encouraging them to get to the altar. We get to see Taylor and Daniel make it to the altar. So much fun. Yay, yay, yay. But at this point, I honestly didn't care because I was so sick to my stomach over just the actual heart-wrenching experiences that we had to watch. And is it just me, or it didn't even feel like good television? It just felt like it broke my actual heart, and I don't know if I can continue supporting this show. I might be extreme right now in my thoughts, but I would love to hear your thoughts. Like, it just seemed very off. I don't think they cast the right people for the show that were all in, ready for marriage, truly, truly ready. And I think production needs to start forcing them to have really real conversations, because Virginia at the end of the day said there were topics that I felt like we could never talk about, probably finances, there was probably a lot that these people didn't talk about. And I think production needs to force them to talk about this. And I know the juicy moment is that altar moment of the yes or the no, but at the end of the day, is that moral? I know it's not TV's job to make a moral show, but how do you guys feel about watching the show anymore? I just feel so bad for the contestants. Ironically, they're shooting the next season right now in Columbus, which is where I'm from. And I've had friends say, we all are gonna know someone that is connected to this show. So I'm really interested to see if I know anyone on that show, but I also am just like sick to my stomach, and I don't know, something needs to change, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but I felt sick to my stomach, and I'd be curious if you did too. What's so weird is that you hear their inner thoughts afterwards, right? Which is, of course, production wants to keep all of that from us until the very end. But it makes me think, Virginia, was it worth going through this whole experience, taking it all the way to the altar, getting your whole family involved, for you to then say, there were so many topics I just did not feel comfortable about with this person. And I had to keep saying, oh, I love him. Oh, so many years ahead. Like, I feel like if I was her family, I would feel so weird. Like, I'd be like, who is this person? An actress? Like a con artist? She said that big things like him saying, do you vote with your faith in mind? Because he was implying that he was from the conservative background and she was more liberal. And that just didn't sit well with her. I don't think that would sit well with anyone. Like, I hate that question too. And that she didn't trust him of like getting a check, a little wedding gift. And she didn't trust him that he was actually ever going to tell her about it. So there's so many things that the couples who broke up said they were actually never comfortable with this person and walking down the aisle, which only leads me to believe, in my opinion, that production is forcing this and kind of ruining people mentally. And I think something needs to change. I'm not quite sure what. I'd love to hear your comments and all of your views and your perspective on everything. But I was sick to my stomach. I'm gonna watch the reunion because now I have to fall through. But are you going to continue watching Love is Blind? And do you also think something needs to change? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you want to hear more of my entertainment breakdowns, go ahead and subscribe and give this video a thumbs up so we can get it out to more viewers. All right, bye guys.
Show me life, show me love.